Hey Nerf Herder, I'm Addy Thomas. Welcome to Certain Point of View as we explore the Star Wars galaxy. Today, we've got a special guest. Ben and Case are going to actually be joining us on this episode, but we've got special guests Frank and Gina Hernandez from Star Wars Revelations, a big fan film from 2005, and we're going to be talking to them in just a second. But before we get there, I just want to remind you can go to our website, certainpov.com, and check out all of our podcasts there. You can check out Case with Another Pass. You can check out our crazy adventures on the Scruffy Nerf Herders. You can check out Matt Storm's new Mass Effect podcast as he re-explores the game a bit, and also Matt and Jeff. They've got Fun and Games with Matt and Jeff as they explore the world of video games. You can check out all of those podcasts on our website, certainpov.com. And while you're there, please be sure to check out people who support us, whether, if you want to be a supporter through Patreon, or also to help out people who do support us, including Maria Monzon, who is a Liberty Mutual insurance agent, who's one of the best I've ever worked with, who is such an authority, someone who is easy to work with, incredibly helpful, and just a generally good person to work with. So if you're looking for insurance, Maria can help you find the best rate possible, and you can get in touch with her if you go to our website, certainpov.com, and click on support. Well, without any further delay, we'll get to our interview with Frank and Gina. So this week we've got some special guests, and one thing that's really exciting about the Star Wars community, and it has always been something that I find that's really powerful about this particular fan community, is just how much of a part of this franchise and this universe that we're all kind of a part of. We all participate in different ways. We all found different ends to this universe, but some of us also give back to that universe in a very interesting way. And I love the fan film community. It's one of the most active ones. It's obviously you see Star Wars references and everything, but this is one of the few franchises, one of the few fandoms that has this active of a fan film community. And it's
been encouraged by Lucasfilm all along, which is really cool.
Exactly. And so this week we've got two special guests. In Case, actually, you were able to arrange all of this. So Case, actually, I'll let you go ahead and take the reins from here.
Yeah, so as a lot of people who've been listening to our podcast know, I've been connected to various fan productions over the years. In fact, I first touched base with you guys because of a Kickstarter that I was helping to promote for Starship Farragut, which was a Star Trek fan film. And so I reached out to people I've worked with on a number of productions, and in this particular case, I brought on Frank and Gina Hernandez.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Who I've known for at this point now about 11 years. And when we first met, you guys had actually just put this out. I mean, or rather, you just starred in this production, which is Star Wars Revelations.
Correct. Yes. Actually, it premiered 13 years ago in April, this past April.
Wow.
I know, right? That's scary. But we started working on it 3 years prior to that.
That's correct. It was supposed to be a couple of months, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as we went.
Right. It was a 3-year production.
Yeah, so I met you guys, it was on the set of Trenches, which was being directed by the director and producer for this as well, right? Shane?
Yes.
Shane Felix,
yeah. Yep.
When we met, you guys told me about this production, and at the time, my only contact with really any sort of professionally-ish made fan films was, I remember the Sci-Fi Channel had put out a special hosted by Kevin Smith talking about different Star Wars projects, and that had George Lucas in Love and a few other Trip in the Rift and some other Star Wars things. And then you told me about yours. I went and checked it out, and I was blown away at the production quality. So I'd love to
I always felt kind of cheated we weren't included in that, actually. Revelations is 47 minutes long. It was on CNN. We were on MSNBC. We got a lot of exposure at the time, and yet I just think that it wasn't short and cute, so they didn't garner the attention that it should have. Are you still there? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Originally it was supposed to be about 15 minutes long. That was the original idea. It was going to be 15 minutes long for the Atom Films Awards, and it just more and more very talented people got involved, and there were costumes and more people and more production people. And
that's true. One of the things Shane was really good at was recruiting people to work for free from all over the world. Star Wars has a huge fan base, and he was able to leverage that and get people to come in and do CG and wireframes for him and work with him to do scenes. He set up an FTP server. He was just able to get all these people involved. He reached out to the 501st. So when we shot in the quarry, we had 50 guys in Star Wars armor, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
It really does. I went back and watched the film again today. As I was watching, I was like, oh, I do remember seeing this when it came out, and I was just like, wow, the production value on this is really amazing, and the quality of the for the writing, the acting, everything is really, really good. And but you're right, like it's a more serious take on a fan film for Star Wars. Like, you're kind of used to like Pink 5 and
Century Wars,
right? Some of the more silly, odes to Star Wars, but this one is just like, it feels like it could be like like part of an episodic TV show or something like that. It's so good.
Yeah,
thanks.
We appreciate that.
We wore a lot of hats too. We did help with the costuming. If we weren't in that particular scene, we would, work production or get people dressed or whatever. So we kind of, wherever they needed us, and that wasn't only true for us, but everybody else involved.
That's true. It was a real team effort. Everybody lugged lights. Like when we were shooting down in the quarry, there was an elevator. You had to carry the lights in and you had to carry the lights out. Sound equipment, as you might imagine, and of course costumes, props, whatever was needed.
Food.
And it wasn't like a professional production where you're not even allowed to do that stuff. Because this was a fan production, right. It was a total team effort. Everybody pitched in all the way around.
Right. Everybody gave 100% all the time.
Yeah, which was difficult. I mean, it was like I said, we thought it was going to be 3 months, and it was 3 years.
Yeah, let's. Can we step back a little bit and start and talk a little bit about your backgrounds initially, and then how you got involved with the project?
That's a great story. So here's how that worked. We were doing costumes at Shore Leave and Farpoint. Every year we'd go down and we'd do a little short musical funny skit.
We'd make our costumes, handmake our costumes.
Superman and Wonder Woman, or Lobo and Catwoman, or whatever the thing that we were. Lara Croft and Snake Plissken. That was a big one. That was popular. Anyway, we didn't know Shane and Dawn, who were the couple who actually produced it. We only knew them as the competition.
Yeah.
And we knew that they were really good.
Yeah.
So, and it was kind of the reverse too. They only knew us as Frank and Gina, the competition in the masquerade. And if they're here, we've really got to rehearse because they're really good too. And he had this idea. They had this idea. They had a script sitting on a shelf that Dawn and her friend Sarah had written, and they wanted to produce it. Shane wanted to produce it. And they had the idea of asking Gina to star in it. And they just came up to us at a convention and asked us if we'd be interested in doing it. At that point, they didn't realize I could act. So originally, Declan's character was going to be the pilot, get them on the Cougar, and then go in the back to check something, and that was going to be it. That was supposed to be my entire role.
Yeah.
But when they found out we'd been doing community theater for our entire lives, Dawn and Sarah expanded my role in the movie and gave me more to do, which I think worked out well for everybody.
Right, right.
So yeah, basically Dawn just walked up to me on a Sunday after the masquerade, at the masquerade critique, and said, hey, listen, me and my husband were, and a bunch of friends getting together, and we wanted to do this Star Wars fan film. Do you think you would be interested? And we had just seen the aforementioned Kevin Smith. I didn't know. We had seen it.
We saw something, and we were like, yes, we'll do it.
And we're like, 3 days in some guy's backyard. Sounds like a blast. Let's go.
Right. On the forest moon.
Which
is what most of them are, right? There's 2 kids in a quarry, or 2 kids on the forest moon. Everything's on the forest moon.
Yeah.
Right.
No sense. And listen, credit to Shane here. He said, listen, we absolutely are not going to have a forest moon. We're going to have real sets and real locations, and I want it to look as professional as possible. No one is going to use the phrase, I've got a bad feeling about this, and we are not going to have force lightning. So I kind of disagree with the last one, but It worked out.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded a little force lightning.
Force light.
That would
Yeah,
have been okay.
Would have been all right.
Yeah, you don't have to go overboard with it, but yeah, it's good.
But he had these strict rules, and we stuck to them. There's some of that stuff in the bloopers. If you watch the bloopers, they're a lot of fun.
But yeah, they said, yeah, if you're available, and we have some stuff for Frank to do too. Don't worry. And we're like, yeah, sure, okay. And then I guess so. The following Monday or Tuesday, Dawn calls me, and I got off the phone shaking. I'm like, Frank, this sounds like a real film. Yeah. You know, the whole pitch and this whole thing about what my character was supposed to do. And
to their credit, I will say that on the production, on the shoots that we worked with them, you know, we'd go to the set or go to the location where we were shooting, and there were other actors there. Some of them had been extras in professional productions, and they said the same thing. This is as good as any professional production. You know, Crafty was there. Everything was laid out. You knew where you were supposed to be. There were people to help you get in the costume, people help you get to set, people to keep you out of the way when they were shooting something else. It was all very, very professionally handled. Kind of spoiled us.
Yeah, actually. It did.
Yeah, that sounds a little different than 3 hours in somebody's backyard.
Right, exactly.
Yes. We were really, really impressed. I mean, we had a read-through at Shane and Dawn's house. And actually, the casting did change a little bit.
Right. From the beginning, they changed the casting a little bit.
The girl playing Jana was playing... I don't even remember who she was playing. But Jana wasn't Jana. She was somebody else, an opera singer or something. And then she backed out.
The original girl cast as Jana didn't want to do it, so this other girl stepped in. Karen Hamming. She was great.
But so we did that, and we started talking to the fight coordinator about what we were going to do, and we started talking to the
well, first of all, they had a fight coordinator.
So a fight coordinator, yeah.
Right there, you're a step up.
And you have to realize, Frank and I had never done anything. We did an old Timothy Hutton movie where we were one of 5 million extras. So we haven't really done any film work. We had done community theater, like he said, and so this for us was just so exciting, and they made us very excited about it.
Yeah, and it was great when we had the premiere. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And we were to this day, I'm very proud of the work we did on that. What happened was, as we were doing it, we're driving back and forth to Virginia every weekend during those years, and Gina in the car says to me, "Listen, I don't want to do anything else now. I've got the bug. I want to be a professional actor." I was like, "Well, I don't know how to get you there, but whatever it is, whatever's involved, I guess we'll figure it out." And that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You know that she's gone on to be in full seasons of Nurse Jackie and Elementary. I did a full season of Person of Interest as a uniformed police officer in the background. And
nice. We love that show.
It's a great show. It's a great show.
That show is the best Batman show on television.
Batman without the costumes. It really is.
Yep. But, it's fantastic.
He's a very serious guy, though, on the set. Yes. Very serious. I have a strange Jim Caviezel story. Also, and nobody knows this, but I'll tell you guys, he does the best Christopher Walken I have ever seen in my life. Jim Caviezel's not a guy who jokes around a lot, but every once in a while, bam, he just breaks out this Christopher Walken impersonation, and it's hilarious. I hope he misses.
All right.
I hope so too. Wow. I kind of want to hear it. I actually would want to hear that.
I can't do it justice. It's better than the other guy, Jay Moore. It's better than his.
Yeah.
Walken is one of those impressions that either it's really, really good or it's really, really bad.
Yeah. That was a great set. The guy who played Fusco, Evan Chapman, he was great to work with when he was in a good mood. You didn't want to work with him when he was in a bad mood. But a very friendly guy, friendly with the cast and everything. Very nice guy to work with. And obviously, it was a show I could work on, then go home and be really excited to watch. I was a big fan of the show before it ended. So, yeah, we went on to become
the training for Revelations was the training for us.
That's right.
That's where we learned so much about film and what goes into film, so that when we did go to a professional set, we were prepared. And I think that worked for us immensely.
We did a shoot where in a museum where I wasn't in the scene at all, so no Declan. And what I did was, that day I worked the cameras behind the very excellent director of photography, Jack Foley. And I learned, like an entire college semester, in the course of 12 hours.
Right.
Just helping him out. I was the focus puller. Like I said, it was in a big group, so everybody did everything. Worked worked with the sound guy, whatever needed doing. But it was an entire education, really.
Mm-hmm. And that was shot in a museum, the Women's Museum in Washington.
Say where it was.
Okay.
At the time, it was a big secret.
It was a big deal. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Okay.
What was the other show that was shooting there, though?
West Wing.
Yeah, West Wing.
And they actually let us use it that day. They were scheduled to use that day, and they said, "No, go ahead and let these guys use it." And which is the magic of Shane. He had a way of doing
That's impressive.
Jedi mind meld or mind trick or whatever to get whatever he wanted, and that was one of the things he did. But it also had one of the largest. I think we had 115 extras on that.
Yeah, it was a big scene. It's the scene where with Vader.
Yeah,
where he comes in and kills the
person
who's freaking out.
Here's a funny story about that. So we go to shoot this scene, and they had an idea where the stormtroopers were going to come running down the stairs.
Right.
So they set up everything. They got the guys from the 501st. They're all in armor. They're at the top of the stairs, and they're like, "Okay, now guys, you want to come running down the stairs?" And these guys they stick out one foot, and they come creeping,
tiptoeing.
They can't see in the masks.
Right.
They're not running down the stairs.
That explains why
the whole shot just did not work. So what we did was stage them at the bottom of the stairs and said, "Okay, one step and then there's the floor, or two steps and then there's the floor." And then they were able to kind of hustle off the stairs, and that's the shot that's in the film, because the original shot was just a disaster.
Yeah, if you see in the
they got to make it work.
Tipping their toes, or they miss completely and kind of fall over.
Right.
It
was just a mess.
It was fun.
You can't see in those helmets too good. It's not a good design. Turns out.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that.
It's horrible.
But had a great bunch of people show up, and I think I've made 26 costumes for that shoot. There's a lot of friend stuff and that thing. And I just got people dressed. But there is also behind the scenes of about 4 or 5 different people with these racks and racks of clothes and costumes that people had made or donated.
Yeah, Dawn and Sarah did a lot of costuming.
And, putting a doublet on this person and then some fabric over their heads or whatever. And it was this whole big thing. And then they wrote them all down, and they had jewelry that went with each costume. And
took pictures in case they had to recreate the scene later.
Right.
I don't know whatever happened to that stuff, because, they never did have to recreate it. We also worked in the first scene that they shot, I think, was in the quarry.
Yeah.
With Holland, who was great. Holland was amazing, and Shane.
Bro.
And we were background in that. I'm the guy moving the ridiculous rock.
Turn around. He's moving a boulder the size of a Volkswagen, and I'm looking at him going, "What are you doing? You're going to kill me."
I'm acting like a guy who moves boulders.
It's just movie magic.
Method acting right here.
Oh, please. But a fun fact about that was that that was during the Beltway shootings.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
I remember it.
Yeah, we were here in DC when that happened.
Right, and we had a few people that were supposed to come with us who backed out.
Right, yeah, they're like, I'm not going
so I'm not going to do that. And
I'm not going to stand in an open quarry.
That's exactly it. We're in the bottom of the quarry. We're like, if that guy comes out here, we are fish in a barrel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nowhere to even run.
It was very creepy. It was very scary getting there and back. And just like Shane the next morning, he's like, "Hey, let's go out to breakfast." And I'm going, I am exhausted just from ducking and dodging and looking and every time you got out of the car. So it was just...
Go to breakfast next time, Shane. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, no, we just... But, yeah.
So do you still keep in touch with a lot of those people?
I'm in touch with Jack Foley. I don't hear from Shane as much anymore.
Yeah. But we
Shane
see
and Dawn
Steve...
split up and we don't...
Yeah, Shane and Dawn are no more. So Panic Struck is not a thing anymore.
Right. And we still see Sarah and Brian at the conventions. We're still good friends with them.
Sarah and Brian, Steve Lesnick, and Lesnick.
Steve Lesnick,
we see a
we're good
lot
friends
of
with them.
the people at the...
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you make good friends. You make lifetime friends when you do a project like that. Mm-hmm. You invest so much.
Yeah, it's not.
No,
it sounds like a lot of...
I always said, I don't think Shane got the recognition that he really deserved for this. I don't understand why. Even the studio, what was it, Stage 9, the Studio 9 or whatever it was, for Trenches, they didn't make him the kind of deal they should have. Yeah. Like the original contract, I'm talking out of school here, but the original contract, he took it to a lawyer, and the guy's like, "I've never seen this before. You cannot sign this." Yeah. And I said to him at that point, I'm like, "Shane, these guys do this all day. This is their job. if they don't get you here, they're going to get you down the road. You know what I mean? Just don't do it. But he really wanted to do it, and he really believed in the project, and they put a lot of constraints on him, and then at the last minute, the studio itself shut down, and then the thing just went into limbo for like 2 years. So instead of having a hit after a hit, you know what I mean? It was Revelations, then it was Pitching Lucas, which was pretty popular,
Right.
and then nothing for like 18 months, and then finally, here on the internet, here's Trenches, and it wasn't as.
Yeah,
He never
it's a real momentum killer.
I don't know why nobody picked him up, even as somebody to just organize teams of guys who do CG. You know what I mean? That small part of it. A professional studio you could do a lot worse than this guy. He's really good at that, obviously.
Yeah, it's weird how sort of the industry can, you know, Addy and I have a radio background, and it's weird like seeing in that aspect of it is like how some people can get a break and get into the industry, and once you're kind of in, like you can always find something to do, but getting your foot in that door and getting that first like nod of like, okay, you're in, is almost impossible sometimes, and there's no real reason for it. Sometimes it's weird. It sounds kind of similar to the film industry in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's levels too.
Well, and momentum plays a big part as well. I mean,
but nobody calls us up to cast us as stars or anything like we did in Revelations. We're the background characters, and that's the reason we like doing the fan films. That's part of the reason we did Farragut, because we got to be main players and have big lines and big scenes and
create, you know, and that was, I think, part of the fan film community, was that you had that chance to just get your creative juices flowing and just feel great about accomplishing something. And, you know, it was just an awesome experience all around from beginning to end, to fight coordinating going. If we weren't filming, we were going to Virginia to do the fight coordination. You know, the fight.
Yeah, they really trained her how to use a lightsaber, sword. So to this day, she still beats up the grandkids with it.
I do. Me every so often, and I go, you know.
Yeah, they get a little older. Like, I'm gonna take out Grandma. Like, yeah, Grandma's like, bring it.
Yep.
Grandma's a badass.
That's it.
All your grandkids have.
I don't know if you guys know this, but in the last scene, the big fight with her and Gina had broken her wrist. So,
oh wow,
she's doing that scene in like the
brace.
The wrist brace. There you go. And
is that the scene with the dual lightsabers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a great scene. I loved that scene.
Yeah, I fell. I had fallen before we shot it, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to call Shane and tell him. And I think I didn't tell him until after we finished shooting, because I was afraid he'd cancel and everything. It was a big deal to go down into the caves. And
she hit Karen pretty good too.
I whacked. Well, she got me once.
I imagine she had it coming.
I had a bruise. I had a lightsaber bruise across my leg for a good 3 weeks. So
wow.
Yeah. Where you hit her? Where'd you hit her?
I hit her in the chin. I got a spasm, and where I had it to her neck.
Yeah, you hit her?
It spasm and hit her right in the chin.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
Because it probably looked great until the lightsaber probably went like right up to her chin, and then all of a sudden your hand like spasmed and just like whacked her.
It was an accident, I swear.
So what exactly is sort of the relationship with Lucasfilm when you guys were, working on this project?
It was the same old rules. As long as you don't make money,
right?
You don't degrade the property, the intellectual property. You can't do porn or anything stupid. You can't make any money. Right. And you can't, what was the other thing? There was 3 of them. I can't remember.
You couldn't disparage.
It's the same thing.
I couldn't, I don't know.
There were 3 rules. Revelations.
They used to not be a big fan of like using main characters.
We didn't. We kind of
Vader was kind of
on
like
that line because we had the Emperor and who was played by Spat, right. Who's great, and we had Vader.
You had Vader and the Emperor, yeah. Right. So we kind of didn't use them as much as it was just enough to kind of just carry the story along a little bit, or
I think
wrap up.
I think Jack did the voice of Vader.
He did. Yeah.
Jack Foley, the director of photography, did the voice of Vader. I don't remember who was in the getup though. I know Brian.
And the Vader was Zippy.
Oh, is that right? So the guy who greets Jana on the planet, that's the guy who did Vader in the costume.
It was his costume.
Oh. Okay.
Like I said, it's all the same people over and over again.
Right. And Lucas would he knew about them, obviously, when he was having the Adam films.
He just looked the other way.
Yeah, as long as you didn't.
I don't know if that's true.
I think making money off of it was the big thing for him, and disparaging the
degrading the property. You can't degrade
degrading the property. But we actually got some accolades, for lack of a better word. Entertainment Weekly did an article on us and gave us a B-, I think.
Yeah, pretty good.
So yeah, it was wild to open up my Entertainment Weekly one week and there's a picture. And so
and that was before we were in the union or anything.
Yeah, that was way back there. And it is rumored that Shane went to the ranch to on the tour that they have at the Lucas Ranch. And there was a copy of the Entertainment Weekly, and he swiftly opened it to that page and left it on his desk and walked away. But that's rumor.
That's anecdotal. Totally anecdotal story. I don't know if that really.
Just a little subtle.
We're going to say it's
here
true.
We go.
Whether it is or isn't is irrelevant. We're totally going to go with that story.
But, and he got his accolade. He actually got for pitching Lucas, which was his next, which we did finally get into the awards, the Adam Film Awards. He won Best Fan Favorite and Lucas Select, which had never been done before for that particular project.
I don't know if they do those anymore.
I don't. Yeah.
You guys know, is anybody even producing these films anymore? I mean, we've worked with James Cawley up at Ticonderoga. Obviously, we were with Farragut down in Georgia. So we've run the whole gambit of. We did an entire episode with James that's never going to be released now because of the new rules.
Right. So things have changed. Star Wars, they're still kind of keeping a blind eye to it so far. Yeah, Disney hasn't jumped on anybody as far as I know. But and then you've got the Star Trek thing.
Can't mess with the mouse, man.
Yeah, well, I was always wondering if they were less forgiving, but from what I understand, they are arranging for like an awards for fan created work, and that includes fan films and fan art and a variety of other work. So it looks like Lucasfilm is still supportive of that particular community.
Well, I would do one if it was a SAG signatory. They got to be SAG after. Can't do them. That was the thing with Farragut. They had that in place, so we worked with them. We can't just go do.
Oh, that's cool.
Once you're in the union, you can't go doing just regular fans.
You can't go back. Yeah.
Which is so tough.
Frown on that.
I love the people.
Yeah.
For me, that's part of the job, and just the people that I've met in the last 15 years and so that we've been doing this. I wouldn't trade that for anything, and it's such a blast to meet people like you, Case. And
oh, thank you.
It's true. It's true. We've worked together as well. I didn't realize that I knew you from Trenches, though. Is that weird?
Well,
because
there was a bit of a gap. Because when I moved to New York, I lost touch with Farragut people, and so when we came back, I was like, oh right. It took it was sort of like that first shoot for The Crossing, where we were like all catching up and being like, okay, wait, how do we all know each other? Because it had been like 5 or 6 years at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't know anybody on the Farragut when you shot that, which is a wonderful film in its own right, by the way. We weren't around for that for Farragut. We weren't doing. I don't know if we were doing anything at that point. I don't know. Things. Yeah, we were doing different stuff, but it's good to see people get together just for the love of the creation.
Whatever the fandom is. Yeah. That's it. We talk sometimes about if we had the money.
Yeah.
Producing our own independent thing. I did a really, really small one called The Man in Charge. It's available on Vimeo, I think. Yikes. And we literally just shot it here.
Yeah, we shot it in the living room here.
It's a crazy little story about this guy who makes a bet with his buddies and he shouldn't.
It was basically to put a reel together.
We were looking to make some real stuff. We worked with a really talented guy named Sandiata, and we lost touch with him too. But so we talk about we want to do something original. But the thing is that even if you have a really great science fiction idea that's totally original, it's totally original. It doesn't have the fan base. It's not going to draw the 501st is not going to show up. Right. You know what I mean? All fans are not going to volunteer to do wireframes for you and to do all this outrageous CG. I mean that you can put, and they did this on one of the major news networks when they did it, CNN or MSNBC. They're like, we're going to show you 2 scenes. CNN. One is from a $30,000 fan film, and one is from a $60 million, and you couldn't tell. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it was me, I'd be like, "Where's my $59 million, guys? What happened?"
We had a kid who was 16 at the time who did the TIE fighter scenes, them coming down and going out of the Death Star or whatever, and he was 16 at the time. It's just a range of people, and I think he was in Seattle, Washington, and then we had people in
Sweden
and Greece and Japan, I think,
Shane
too.
really pulled it together. It was amazing. And then at the premiere, we got them all together, took them out to dinner.
Yeah.
It was a big
That kind of makes me think of that scene in Galaxy Quest when they are reaching out to all the nerds on Earth to get like specs about things, and they're like going on the internet, and there's no implication that they're anywhere near each other geographically. They're just like all across the internet, like, oh, I've got the specs for the engine room. Oh, I've got the information on the device that's going to destroy everything.
That's a great analogy. That's exactly what it was like.
When you say Star Wars, and I think Shane said this at one point, you say Star Wars, or you say Star Trek, and there are people that have such a feeling, reverence, and it brings back a time, when they were younger and when they were innocent, and it makes people go, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be involved. Even if I just stand there and hold somebody's costume, or if I just watch, and then, we've had people who are lawyers by day, and they just came to check it out, and now they themselves say they watch TV different. They watch a film different.
Now they're doing light design.
Yeah.
They can't watch their favorite shows anymore.
Right.
So what exactly was it that kind of brought you guys into the nerd community? To start, doing, acting?
Yeah, you guys were hitting cons just because, and that's how you got involved in Revelations.
Years before that, right? I started a fan group. This was in the second year, I think, of Star Trek: Next Generation. There were a lot of Star Trek groups. There was Starfleet, the national thing, and there were different Star Trek groups, but there were no Star Trek: The Next Gen groups. So I started my own Star Trek: The Next Gen group called the USS Integrity, NCC 2112.
Fan group.
And fan group. What did I say?
I'm just.
And it's a fan club, and we got together once a month, and we would make you couldn't buy them at the time, so we'd make all the props, and we'd make our own costumes. So the girls would take up sewing. I was married to my first wife at the time, and it became a very big thing. At one point, we had 80 members. We built a shuttlecraft for Generations. When Generations came out. No, wait, Generations, we built the transporter.
Yeah.
We built the transporter for Generations, and then when First Contact came out, we built a shuttlecraft that you could actually get into. It was built like a boat on the inside.
Yeah.
And the Channel 12 News came out and covered it. And one of the things, I went to a convention and I saw another Starship fan club do the Masquerade. And I was like, that looks like so much fun. So we started doing the Masquerade with the whole group.
I think we did the X-Men first, right?
The X-Men was the first costumes that we did. They were terrible. We didn't know anything about costuming. But we had a good time. And that was the important thing. And at the end of the night, we actually won an award. Because if you have a big group, it doesn't matter if your costumes are awful. You have a lot of people all have terrible costumes.
I can attest to that on my own experience.
Musical. That's what you got to remember for masquerades. Anyway, so that's I didn't get into the nerd community. I am the nerd community from before you guys were born. You joined me. Don't make it sound like I joined you. You joined me.
Fair enough.
I mean, I grew up on Star Trek, watching Star Trek as a kid on Channel 11. I had to fight my two younger sisters for time because they didn't want me enjoying myself. Basically, is what it was. So they would insist that every other day we had to watch the Brady Bunch. And my parents, of course, who had no sense of proportion, no sense of oh yeah, that's just the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. And then my sisters would sit there with their arms folded. They didn't really want to watch the show. They'd sit there out of spite, and they'd watch the whole show.
That sounds exactly like my kids.
Keep me from watching the show I wanted to watch, which was so important to me at the time. I used to make, and this is true of a lot of us, we used to record the shows on audio tape. There was no videotape or anything like that. So we would record them on audio tape, playing back in our rooms at night. And I know one of the guys still has his, which I think is amazing.
Wow.
Right? Like 50 years later, this guy still got his tapes.
That's incredible.
That's dedication right there.
Yeah, what's the plan? He's telling the old tape recorder. A lot of these guys, and I think it's interesting too, a lot of the old Star Trek fans, they drifted into different things. Like different things became important to them. They became obsessed with different things. But it always has an impact on their lives. The real big fans. I was driving out to the desert with Vic Mignon and Todd Habercorn and John Broughton. The four of us are in the front of the van. We're driving out into the desert in California, a few miles from where they shot the scene with the Gorn. And we're doing
the price of anything.
For the price of anything, right? So I go to California, and we're going out there to shoot this scene. It took like 4 days. It's 4:00 in the morning. It's still pitch black out, and everybody else in the van is asleep. The light people and the sound people and the makeup people are all back there, but they're out. It's just the four of us, the die-hard, hard-boiled fans, sitting up in the front of the thing. And I mentioned a couple of the novels. I said, well, one of my favorite novels is Spock's World, and then some other novel. And they were like, to a man, John, Todd, and Vic, they're like, I've never read the novels. Yeah, me neither. I've never read You've never read them? I've never read the novels. So I look out the window for a minute, and I turn back to them. I go, you guys know how to read, though, right? I mean, like, this is not like trivial. This is like we're the guys. You guys have never read a Star Trek novel? What are you talking about? I thought I would be the honest. No.
Right? So what do you guys? What do you guys kind of make of fandom now and 2018 and what do you like? You're still going to cons. You're still active in the community. What do you see now, and how have things changed in your opinion, better or worse?
Look, when I was a Star Trek fan and I was a kid, there was nothing else. There was stuff like there was the Irwin Allen stuff, which was awful. You go back and actually the first season of Lost in Space was pretty good if you go back and watch the original stuff. But then it gets silly and it gets campy, and I don't know if you guys realize what happened with that, but like Man from U.N.C.L.E. was a very serious show, but then Batman, the campy Batman, became super huge, and then everybody wanted to do that. So Man from U.N.C.L.E. becomes ridiculous, and Lost in Space becomes ridiculous. Everything becomes ridiculous because Batman was a big hit. It was stupid. But anyway, so back in the day, there was a very small menu to pick from, right? There was basically classic Trek. And then there was the fan base around. People would do different things with that. But now, because you asked like how it's different, there is a broad smorgasbord. It's not a Star Trek convention anymore. It's a science fiction convention. You've got, and I mean, I've met young people who are diehard, as serious as I ever was, fans of Voyager. You know what I mean? And that's their thing. And they can quote the entire 2 episodes of Year of Hell and things like that. I obviously I watch it all, except the Abrams stuff. I drew the line after the first Abrams movie. I'm like, you know what? I'm out. I'm not watching this anymore.
I will recommend Beyond because that's actually pretty good.
What's that?
I liked it too.
Beyond?
Yeah.
No.
And what was the?
He's like, no.
Just no.
I'm not doing it.
I had the grandkids home, and I was like, okay, let me just keep them busy. And I went and I brought that home, and he was completely angry at me that I even brought it into the house.
I really am.
I don't watch
Purist. I don't know why she's using the past tense. I really don't. I'm still angry.
I think with the new films,
look, are we going to talk about this? Are we going to talk about this or not?
Are we on Trek or Star Wars at this point?
No, we're on Star Trek.
You can do whatever you want to talk about.
Fandom, but you brought up those new stupid ass films. And here's the thing about it, all right? When you watch classic Star Trek, excuse me, when you watch classic Star Trek, the reason that Kirk is in command is because he earned that position and he deserves to be in command. He's the moral center of the show. You watch the Corbomite Maneuver, which is the first real episode where everybody's wearing the right uniform and they get the whole package together for the first time. Before that, there's some other stuff that they shoot they're just figuring it out still. And he says, towards the end of the episode, the other ship gets disabled. He's like, we're going to, it's time for a rescue. We're going in. And everybody, including Spock's like, wait a minute, are you nuts? These guys have been, they spent the whole show trying to kill us. And he's like, what is the meaning of this ship? What is the purpose of this ship? Why are we out here? I'm the captain. This is what we're doing now. And you can see that leadership. You can feel that leadership. And I love Chris Pine. I think he's a great actor. I don't blame any of the actors for the new movies. But that character that he's playing is not Captain Kirk. Not by a mile. Not by a mile.
But that's who don't like the old stuff and they love the new stuff.
But they're wrong.
That's the most compelling argument that I've heard against the Abrams movies.
Which is awful. Look, you know, when a star goes supernova, it doesn't take out the neighboring star system. Also, if you're on a planet, you don't look up and see another planet in another star system, and it's as big as Earth's moon. This is just stupid at this point.
Fair enough. I can't argue that.
Goddamn guy on the whole goddamn planet. The other guy runs into him, and he's in an ice cave with a fire. Great. Where do you get the wood? What is he burning? This entire thing is stupid.
That's it.
I can keep going, but I'm gonna let it go. But one of the things I see is that fans in 2018 less discriminating. Okay, I'll say that. But a lot of the fans, a lot of the fans, the younger fans I see are pretty dedicated. They have a pretty good sense of what it was really all about. Like Janeway deserves to be in command. She's not just some frat girl who gets promoted above everybody else. That goes to the academy for 3 years. How stupid is this? And then, oh yeah, we're going to make you captain. Never mind all your upperclassmen. They're going to be fine with it.
I think everybody picks their favorite, and sometimes.
But there's more to pick from.
There is more to pick from, and you see a lot of younger kids who do either gravitate towards next gen or the older sci-fi as opposed to the new, lens flare sci-fi, And
how annoying was that?
Whatever speaks to them, and now you've got emo sci-fi kids, and you
always had that stuff. You always had the guys watching Dark Shadows, and they were the emo fans back in the day.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I forgot about the original Dark Shadows. Yeah. I remember watching that as a kid.
Killer Theater.
That was great back in the day. Yeah.
From school, and Killer would be on with the 6-fingered hand, dying in the swamp. Yeah. Anyway, that was back in the day. There wasn't that much to pick from, like I said. So there's a bigger table now. And it's nice. There's a lot of great stuff. The integrity sort of petered out when Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 and then Voyager happened. When we were doing it, there was less of it, so there was more of an appetite. And then it was like, I've made lifelong friends from the integrity that I'm still friends with. Great people. Some of whom.
Do you feel that because there's so much that it's gotten watered down, that the storytelling isn't as compelling?
In some cases, that's true. I think Marvel does a really good job with the storytelling. I wish they would cross over more. DC hasn't figured that out yet. This new plan for Supergirl is literally the worst idea I've heard in years. We're going to do a new Supergirl movie, and to keep it relevant, it's going to be an origin story set in the 70s. All right.
Okay.
It's like, how can we shoot ourselves in the foot right at the beginning of the race? I mean, I'm only sure that when we're going to lose here. It's just a bad idea, I think. And
I do think it's watered down. I do believe that there's so much out there that everybody's trying to find that next cash cow. I feel producers.
You say that, but why has Star Wars never had a live action TV show? And there's another thing I'm talking about. We did Star Wars Revelations. They could have taken that and made
Lucas of not being a cash cow?
No, I'm saying that they've missed opportunities. You got that stupid droid show, and you got stupid stuff like that, but they've never had like a Star Trek level show from Star Wars.
I know it's been.
You could take an idea like Revelations with different characters, or Rogue One. Take I love Rogue One because it made me feel like the old Star Wars movies. It felt like I don't know if you guys ever did this, but the old Star Wars role playing game.
Yeah, we actually do a podcast. The Case runs a game for us. He's a dungeon master, and we play and record it and put it out, called Scruffy Nerfers.
You guys might know my son,
which you can check out on our website, certainpov.com.
Anyway, that movie made me feel like that. Back in the day when we do role playing, years ago, it made me feel like I could identify with the characters. It told the original story. It didn't really have much to do with the main character from A New Hope or whatever. I thought that was clever. It was well produced. I liked it a lot. But why have they never taken that idea and done a TV show?
Have you watched any of the animation shows that
they
did? Clone Wars.
Why do Star Trek the animated series when you could do a live action show? It's not like you would have to fight for a spot. If you produced a really good Star Wars show, I promise people would watch it. You'd be selling advertising. You'd be making money. Nobody does it.
There's got to be a reason.
Well, the good news is that they are. Yeah, that Favreau is show running a new show that's in production right now.
Yeah, it's actually expected next
Is it
year.
in production right now?
So-
Okay, this has been going on since 1977, but it's in production.
Right. Yeah. No, I always wondered that too, why there was no, and there's been talk over the years of different shows and they always seem to fall apart, for whatever reason. But yeah, you're right. For as massive Star Wars fans, like I've always wanted to have that same serial week to week storytelling that Star Trek has had over the years with
Money in the bank.
runs.
It's money in the.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, if we want to get realistic about this, like, the issues with Lucas when he was in control.
Yes.
Like, he famously wanted to be in charge of stuff, but also at the same time kind of hated directing. And so, like, you can't imagine him relinquishing the amount of control he would need to for that show to come out. So it's really only now that Disney owns it, and they sort of did it the smart way, which is they restarted the franchise, and then they started exploring, like, expand other properties, as opposed to trying to, like, launch something that's totally different right out of the gates.
And I think Lucas also wanted to at different times, but he wasn't comfortable with where
Technology was.
Yeah, at the time, because he was gearing up to do a Star Wars Underworld show close in the years leading up to the sale to Disney, and then it sounds like some of those elements have been kind of reworked into Favreau shows. So maybe it's finally happening. But yes, it's been way too long for that.
What do you mean about the technology? I mean, the whole reason that Farragut and Phase 2, Star Trek Continues, all those things are able to be done is that for the price of one piece of equipment, really, you get as good quality of production as you do at a Desilu in 1967 now. Technology has far exceeded.
Well, I think you're saying at the time that these came up.
Yeah, I think like his vision of what he wanted to accomplish, maybe the technology wasn't
what he wanted it to be.
Yeah, how he wanted it to look.
In the same way that, like, Cameron.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I think Cameron, like guys like Cameron and Lucas, who are as tech focused as they are wanting to maybe they sometimes prioritize the tech over the story, depending if you look especially at what Lucas tried to do with the prequels and Cameron with the Avatar movie at this point, and it's what's slowing him down right now with the movies is his new set of movies. Is he said the technology isn't like is getting to where he wants to be, but there's a lot more he wants to do. So I think some of that kind of thing, like these are guys that I think Lucas and Cameron are guys that are they want to be innovators in some ways more than they want to be storytellers. If that
does make sense. It makes a lot of sense because I think you're right. I think that if they're not innovating, they're not happy. Whereas the technology is, I mean, ever since I was watching a very underrated movie, John Carter of Mars, and I was sitting in the theater and I was like, man, there's just no story they can't tell now. I mean, this is just like the book with the aliens with the forearms and stuff, and I just thought it was amazing. The technology is there. Like, without having to innovate.
It's funny you mentioned that after coming off of Cameron, since I saw Avatar and thought that was like going to be the John Carter movie, basically, and then it's like, oh no, we're actually going to do that.
It was gorgeous, actually. I think they was that Disney as well, and they decided at the last minute to just not advertise for it.
Yeah, they cut their own threads on
something
that
happened
one.
with that.
They really did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did.
Yeah, because that could have been a pretty good property for them, and it just kind of fell.
Well,
flat.
there had been another Mars movie and it didn't do well, so stupidly the studio was like, "Oh yeah, Mars movies aren't going to make any money. Just forget it."
Something with the money people get a little.
Yeah, that happens a lot in the industry. You see accountants getting involved in the decision making, and it's not always the.
But just going back to producing a product and making money, I mean, you don't have to innovate. The technology is there. You could just deliver a really solid project. You know what you want to do? Take some of the money you're not innovating with and spend it on writing. You know what I'm saying? Spend it on really good storytelling, and you'd have a really solid product that people would spend, all kinds of money for. New product for distribution, because you're going to have the dolls, you're going to have the toys, you're going to have the T-shirts. It's as I say, it's a cash cow. It's money in the bank. Talking about letting the money people run things. I mean, if that's your job and that's what you're doing, you're terrible at it.
There's a lot of pressure. you know. Oh, well, that really went over well, and I want another one. Give us another one. We want one as good as the first one, and let's come on.
They want the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and they, yeah.
Well, you see that effect happen in like sequels where like a Spider-Man where the first Raimi Spider-Man is so good, and then they're like, okay, I got an idea. Let's do this again, but let's have two villains this time.
Right.
You know, and you see that happen a lot with sequels, and
the idea is to have to top the last thing instead of just telling us.
Yeah, instead of just telling a good story, they're like, okay, how do we make this even bigger spectacle? And I'm like, I didn't love that movie. I liked the movie because it was a spectacle, but I also I liked it because it was a good story, and that's really the most important part of it.
Fun fact that Frank and I are both in Spider-Man 3. We were on the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3. That was, it was.
Oh,
I
nice.
think your first. I mean, that was your first Spider-Man.
It was one of the first ones.
So yeah, we got to see that, and we got to be blown away by big, gigantic.
We were in the scene that they cut. Where
the
scene where
hooray for Spider-Man.
Harry and Mary Jane. No,
yeah, Mary Jane.
Gwen.
Mary Jane and Gwen was in it. Gwen, he was going to kill.
Oh, that's right. She was. Gwen was in that one. Right.
Yeah. Gwen, I think. And it's Gwen and no, it's MJ. Yes, it's MJ. You're right. Kristen Dunst, who I caught. She fell during the shoot, and I caught her. Anyway, we're in a scene where she weighed like my daughter weighed when she was 12.
Yeah.
It's a compliment. She's extremely but literally I picked her up and I'm like, this girl has hormones. But I mean it as a compliment. But we were in a scene and it's Harry and MJ and the Sandman goes by.
Right.
But it's not in the movie. They cut that scene out of the movie.
Yeah, it was very quick.
We all got blown over, and that's why she fell.
Yeah.
She fell and also picked up the other guy, James Franco.
Yeah, they separated us, and he went to go do that scene. He comes back, and he's like, guess what I just did? I'm like, I don't know what. Got a line. Now you have your SAG card. What?
we still didn't have our waivers yet. So.
Yeah, we were really new at that point. We had just.
And I'm also in the other Spider-Man movie. I don't remember which one.
Amazing Spider-Man 2. Well, we did one and two, but
I'm behind Gwen in the car.
Yeah, when she's coming out of the, she's on the bridge.
She's on the bridge.
Everybody, oh, look, there's Spider-Man.
And she gets out of the cab. She's in the cab. I'm in the car behind her.
Right.
Oh, cool. I'll have to look. Can we see you? Can we actually tell who you are?
You see the shape of my head, basically. I'm out of focus.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, what they did was the director was, according to Frank, he was in frame, so they kept telling him, well, the director wants you to do this, the director wants you to do that. And then when you see the final cut, they blur the back window. So if you know Frank, he's there acting his butt off. But it's
fun stuff like that. I was in I don't know if you can see me. I was in Annie.
Annie, you get a side view tomorrow. It was and what's funny, a little anecdote there was my grandson. They were showing them the original Annie film from way back with Carol Burnett, I think, and Tim Curry. And he mentioned, oh, well, my grandfather's in the new one. And they're like, oh, right. Okay, Joseph, making up these ridiculous lies or whatever. And the teacher the next day actually had gone to my husband's IMDb page and apologized to my grandson for thinking he was lying because little
IMDb, the great equalizer.
Get some respect around here.
Yeah, every once in a while, my dentist will be like, "Oh, were you on Gossip Girl?" Woo-hoo. It's like, yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You guys are a blast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we should get together and talk politics or something.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Well, you can always go to our website, certainpov.com. Check out all of our podcasts there. Also, rate, review, and subscribe to all of our podcasts there. We'd really appreciate that. And if you'd like to be a part of what we do on this podcast, you can be a patron on Patreon. You can find out all of that information on our website, certainpov.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my nerf herder.